We're excited to be with you again. It's Mike and Karen from Glad Tidings Pentecostal Church. If you've joined us before, welcome back. And if it's your first time, we're excited you're with us, and we pray you'll be blessed tonight by what you hear. We're continuing with our interviews of personal testimonies, just stories from people of where God has intervened, or a salvation, or a healing, or just done something in their lives.
Hi, Glenn. Today we have Glenn with us, and he's coming to tell us a story tonight, a testimony of something that was very important to him, and God showed up for him just when he needed him. So we're going to give it to you, Glenn. Go ahead and tell us your story.
Okay, this is a pretty cool story. God's kind of intervention in a situation that could have gone bad. Last Sunday, Pastor Lewis, he mentioned, it was just a throwaway kind of little testimony about how he'd lost his wallet and he couldn't find it. And God directed him to be up the stairs looking down, and he managed to find it. You know, otherwise he would never find it. So that reminded me of an incident about 20, maybe 22 years ago. This was over in Scotland. And we used to live up in the Orkney Islands, right in the northeast coast of Scotland. So whenever we wanted to get to the mainland, we would either fly or we'd take a ferry. So there was a Christian week gathering down in England, down in Stoneleigh. And it was lots of worship, lots of bands from all over England came, worship bands, and it was a completely ecumenical thing. It wasn't Baptists or Catholics and like that. And we all camped out and we all had lots of fun. So we had to buy tickets for this in advance. And then, because I lived up in the Orkney Islands, I had to take a ferry down to Aberdeen. That was an overnight ferry. And then the drive would have been about 500 or 600 miles down to this event. And in the morning, when the ferry arrived in Aberdeen, 7 o'clock in the morning, you have to go down to the car deck and you take all your stuff down where you've got bags and sleeping bags and pillows and blankets, and you get down to the car deck and you start putting everything back in the car. Well, I don't know about you, but when I'm driving and getting ready for a long drive, I'll kind of take lots of things out of my pockets and I'll put them in bits and places in the car. And so what I did was, as I was getting stuff in the car, I put my wallet on the roof of the car, on the driver's side,
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else does that, but I do that and then get everything else sorted out. And then that's the last thing, and it goes on the dashboard or somewhere. So we got in the car, and because the petrol and gasoline price is quite expensive in Orkney, we always used to drive down to Aberdeen on fumes, as it were, and we could get gas in Aberdeen a bit cheaper. So got in the car and we drove off the ferry, and it was typical northeast of Scotland day. The wind was blowing and it was raining and it was just a horrible day. And we had to drive all the way through the city. It was about 20-minute, maybe a half an hour drive through the city. Lots of bumps, roundabouts, lots of roundabouts in the United Kingdom. We don't just go round a corner slowly. And then eventually got out of the city onto the main highway, the motorway, where the gas station was. So stopped the car at the pumps, got out, started to put gas in, checked my pockets, checked the car. Where's my wallet? And I remembered, I left my wallet on the roof of the car. And I looked up over, and there it was. The wallet was still on the roof of the car.
Wow.
Now, like I say, that was about a 20-minute drive through the city, lots of turns and bumps and roundabouts with centrifugal force and all that. And there's no way in physics or science or gravity, and the wind was blowing and it was raining, there's no way that wallet would ever have stayed there. If that wallet had come off the roof of the car, we would have been stranded. We wouldn't have had any gas money. We would have had to, you know, it just would have been a huge problem. The event would have been cancelled. We wouldn't have made it there. We'd had to call the bank and get cash, and it would just been a total, absolute disaster. So, and the other amazing thing was, I mean, it was pouring rain, eh? So after 20 minutes, half an hour, that wallet would be wet and everything in it would be soaked. Everything was dry. The pound notes inside it, the paperwork, the tickets that I had for the event were dry. So, you know, I have absolutely no doubt that, you know, God really wanted me to get to this event, this festival.
Amen.
And that either an angel was on the roof with his foot on it, or there was some magical heavenly super glue or something, you know. I mean, there's just absolutely no way that wallet should have stayed on that car.
Yeah.
Absolutely not, Glenn. You know, Glenn, I'm listening to your story for the first time, and it reminds me of Mike and I. We were on our way to Toronto, and Mike put his wallet on the top of the car.
I'm not the only one that does it.
Oh, no.
No.
Right here.
Yeah, and when we got to the hospital in Toronto, there was no wallet. And the funny thing about it was it wasn't on the top of our car, but what was interesting, when we drove away from our house, not far from our house, probably 2 blocks, maybe 3, is when the wallet had actually fallen off the car, just turning corners.
Yeah.
Somebody found it and turned it into the police. So we know what you're saying is an absolute miracle, to have a wallet sit on the top of your car through a rainstorm all that way.
And to not be destroyed with all the tickets and the cash inside and all the rest of it. I mean,
and normally when your wallet gets wet, all the paper inside it's all soggy and the ink all runs and the tickets and your pound notes are all, or your dollars are all stuck together. No, it was dry. Everything was perfectly fine, and we filled the car up with petrol and rejoicing all the way down the road, and we went to the event and we had a great time.
Amen.
That's a great
That's
story.
a great story, Glenn. You know what? It just helps people to realize that God's just watching over you and caring for you. And we're hearing similar stories about these kind of things, Glenn. And we're hearing testimonies of how God is so interested in every detail of our lives. Every detail.
Yeah.
But we thank you so much for your time today.
I just wanted to say, I've been praying lately, and one of the things that comes to my mind is that we're just not alone in anything. God is with us at every step, every instance of the way, isn't he, Glenn? And I mean, I think as children or young Christians, we're kind of get into the genre that God is, the really big supernatural things, but he delights in just the small things.
Yeah.
Yes, amen. Yeah,
he does.
Every detail
of our life, he's so concerned. Thank you so much, Glenn, for taking your time today.
God bless you, Glenn.
Share this testimony with us. Thank you.
Bless you.
I've got a few more up my sleeve.
Good.
Well, we call them.
They might take a bit longer, but I've got a few stories.
All righty then. We'll hear some more.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Glenn.
All right.